Well, good day, everyone. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed shareholders today to discuss the state of Baldwin Co. in relation to our sensor development and sales since 2020. By quick introduction, my name is Craig Greeley. I'll be presenting on behalf of Dan, Chris, CY, and Colin. By all means, if you have any comments or questions with regards to the presentation, feel free to reach out to any of us with regards to those, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. For this presentation, what I'll go through is a quick introduction of the company, what we were trying to achieve, our mission, visions, and goals as we're moving forward. I'll talk to you a little bit about the achievements that we saw specifically in this year, our top 3 achievements overall over the course of the objective simulation since 2021 timeframe, the challenges that we face, some projections that we're forecasting, and overall some lessons learned before concluding this brief presentation. As you should have established by now, we're presenting on behalf of Team Baldwin. The image that I've depicted on the right forecasts our current 4 products as we're seeing at the end of simulation round number 6. From the top left corner to the bottom right-hand corner, we have the products Bold and Baker in specifically the low-tech market segment, then getting into the high-tech market segment where we've ended off with Bolt and Buzz. We discussed very early on that the strategy that we wanted to attain was called a broad differentiator from the overall core simulation guides. The aim of this strategy was to depict different products in the 2 different market segments and utilizing different strategies, if you will, allowing them to mature inside of those market segments, as well as giving us an opportunity to leapfrog one another each of the products, thereby maintaining at all points in time a product that was available to selling for 365 days over the current year. Below the perceptual map, you can see the age of each of our products. Another one of the challenges we'll discuss later on is how from a high-tech market segment, we're always pushing beyond, or close to, shall I say, the 1-year market. For Baldwin, we had quickly established that the mission that we wanted to achieve was through delivering innovative and market-leading solutions through diversity and sustainability. Ultimately, what we're trying to leverage is the fact that we know we're going to be selling products in both different market segments and how best to achieve that. The vision, therefore, becomes being a leader in supporting the customer's technological needs through a people-first, mission-always strategy. By this, what we're referring to is that we know we're going to be selling products to the individual consumers in the respective markets, and that to achieve that goal, we needed to be aggressive as well as smart in where we were placing our products and how we were going to go about achieving that end state goal. The objective that we set out early on was to introduce 4 products into the marketplace by the end of round 3. We knew, shall I say, we needed to achieve 4 products, 2 in the low-tech, 2 in the high-tech market segment, in order for us to set up the applicable stagger that we needed to achieve. As well, we listed our objective as attaining the highest market share by the end of round 6. Depending on how each of the other companies were going to place their products and how they were going to move, we saw this as an achievable goal, but we needed to be aggressive in both in terms of the size and the performance of our project, as well as the overall price that we were setting out. As can be seen, Team Baldwin had a fantastic end of simulation result. We achieved the highest of all companies in terms of overall sales, the second in terms of outstanding profit. Contribution margin was always somewhat difficult for us given the strategy that we put in place, and I'll talk to that and the complications a little bit moving forward, as well as we had the second highest overall stock price of all companies. Our market share topped all over companies as can be depicted on the screen, which for us signified overall success in achieving our end state goal that we were trying to achieve. With regards to our progress over all rounds of the simulation, Team Baldwin, though, saw success towards the end of the simulation. We did not always feel that way throughout. We did see our fair share of complications. However, we do feel that we were successful in achieving the strategy that we aimed out to set forth and to achieve. Our overall achievement since the start of round 1 in 2021 is that we were the first company to establish 4 products into the market. This was overall for us, as I alluded to earlier, one of the key milestones and objectives that we set out. We knew early on that in order to consistently have a product available to sell for 365 days of a given round, that we needed to have an ability for a product to sit dormant for a small period of time while it underwent some sort of research and development effort to be brought back out onto the market. Second to that, we saw year-over-year sales, profit, stock, contribution margin increases, and never had a round where we were obtaining an emergency loan. We were the first company to establish more than $100,000 in sale, and we were the only company overall to achieve a 5-star rating. However, in round 4, we didn't think that this was going to be the case, and I'll talk to that a little bit later on. Overall, we see our contributions, our efforts in terms of this simulation as a success. I'll leave it to each of the shareholders to determine where they feel that we rack and stack against some of the other companies, and we'll talk to that a little bit later on. Things were not always looking so bright and successful for Team Baldwin. The first challenge that we really came across was set out in round 4 in terms of our contribution margin. While we had been achieving a 5-star rating throughout, contribution margin for round 4 really gave us a lot of problems. We originally had forecasted that we were not going to achieve a 5-star rating coming out of round 4, given the lower than the previous round's contribution margin. We had been forecasting about a 2% increase round over round for our contribution margin. However, at the end of round 3 coming into round 4, we saw a significant growth in terms of our contribution margin because we did not fully understand how CAPSIM was calculating our contribution margin as it related to our forecasted sales as well as the order quantity that we had put in for the following round's order. This resulted in a contribution margin from the previous round being a lot higher than what we had forecasted, and then to achieve that same result or higher in what was round 4 early on saw as being near impossible for us. In order to achieve the same 5-star rating, we had to sacrifice some sales through our order quantity as well as our forecasted sales, and by doing so, we're able to drop the labor cost per unit, which could then in turn raise our contribution margin. So if you were to see our overall results coming out of coming out of round 4, you would see that our contribution margin went higher, but we really had to sacrifice our sales as well as some of the position that we had in terms of market share throughout each of the low-tech and high-tech products. So by fully understanding then how the contribution margin was being calculated within CAPSIM, we could then better align for that in the following rounds and implement strategies to overcome that. That led us into the role of automation. Role of automation, we did not prioritize early enough in comparison to some of the other companies. That's why, again, coming out of round 4, we saw a dramatic increase in the role that automation played in decreasing the labor cost per unit. So with our role of automation being higher, I think it was somewhere around the 4 to 4.5 range, we were able to see a dramatic decrease in the overall labor cost per unit from one round to the next. The other challenge that we saw towards the end of round 5 and round 6 was the unforecasted company growth. As can be seen round over round, we really did not play too much in terms of the capacity that our company was able to produce in terms of 3 of our newly established products of Bolt, Bold, and Buzz. We felt as though early on we would only be selling somewhere around 3,000 to 3,500 units, but we did not have a firm grip on where they would be sold round over round. It's for that reason that towards the end we were forecasting and sacrificing some of the sales because we had maximum capacity in terms of those 3 products in and around 700 units each. When compared to other companies like Ferris, who I shall say dominated in terms of the high-tech market segment, you could see that their capacity in that specific market segment was a lot higher than ours. Had we prioritized the company growth and increased more of our capacity earlier on, we would have been able to achieve higher results than what we have established already to date. The results that we were able to achieve, as I've highlighted here, came out as a part of 4 distinct strategies. The first strategy I jokingly call Chris's strategy. This is a concept that Chris and I had discussed very early on that he brought to my attention as part of his readings. The aim here was, especially for the low-tech market segment, to introduce a product that was far beyond, if you will, the ideal market segment and allowing it to mature round over round in that market segment until such a point that on its ideal time, i.e. 3 years for a low-tech product, it would be at the ideal position. So that would mean that we've introduced a product that had far better performance and size than what was needed in the low-tech market segment. But round over round, as that product matured, it would slowly get to a point by the end of the 3rd year, it was in that ideal position. That allowed us to achieve the significant results that we saw in the low-tech market segment, as well as gave us a position where we could now start leapfrogging the products to thereby achieve the results and, again, keeping a product in and able to sell in the market for year over year. Teamwork and collaboration was another big part of our overall strategy. Each week, we needed to have weekly telecons where we could discuss, play around with the results, see what other companies were doing, and thereby best determine where to place our position and size of our products. We were going to put our overall price for that specific round, as well as we could start playing with the respective sales forecasts and order quantities to best achieve. Looking continually towards that 5-star rating that we were trying to achieve and setting the company up for success. That was really our strategy for success. Looking at the forecast results as through Performa, as well as the numerous conversations we had back with CAPSIM to understand the inner workings of how our sales forecasts, our contribution margins, our profits, how they changed round over round from what was being forecasted actually was, and understand the inner workings was critical to us being able to best appreciate and ensure that our forecast best accurately represented the sales forecast for that upcoming round. By doing so, as well as playing very conservative in terms of the overall sales that we were forecasting to sell in that given round, was our best approach to ensure that we would not have excessive quantities left over round that would see a decrease in our overall profits. Sales would increase the stock price that we had to have round over round, as well as ensuring that we were, again, best set up for success. By establishing ourselves as a market leader, it set us up for an aggressive strategy whereby we were able to best compete with all companies in both market segments. Again, the idea of having more than one product in a particular area, as could also be seen by Ferris to bring up their outstanding performance in the high-tech market segment, we are able to best achieve our end state results. And again, continuing that leapfrog approach of always having a company available to sell. Again, as we understood more the inner workings of how CAPSIM worked, we could best align our round over round efforts to achieve the results we were looking to gain. As we look forward to the future for Team Baldwin, as it stands right now and should become somewhat apparent, is the company is somewhat stagnant with little room for growth. With little investment done as it stands right now in terms of the overall capacity of our plants, we're not able to achieve more sales or more profits. By capitalizing on the automation and balancing that with the understanding with an increase in automation comes an increase in the overall price for research and development, as well as the time to get a product out onto the market. There's a balance there that needs to be played. But without that additional capacity, Team Baldwin is capped somewhere in and around, I would argue, $150,000 or $150 million, depending on how CAPSIM is calculating those end state numbers. Capacity and automation for us are key. Our return on sales at the end of round 6, shall I say, was 12.52%. Return on expenses, 23.9%, and return on assets of 19.97%, with a total evaluation as calculated by CAPSIM of 90.7% when compared to all other companies. So that specifically is a value that now allows us to compare ourselves one over the other. While we did see some criteria that were market leaders, I think our biggest pitfall had to have been the amount of money that we're putting into getting those 4 products available onto the market, and how, as a result, we were not prioritizing the automation and our capacity to decrease the overall unit costs and achieve, in that regard, a higher return on sales. That would have been a better strategy for us in review. Some lessons learned from our company, if there was a round 7, is alignment of the stagger. Where do we have to have a product in a number of rounds down the road? This is best seen again with the low-tech products, whereby, as it stands right now, our 2 low-tech products, both Baker and Bold, are a little beyond the ideal area. Had we had a round 7 and had we understood where those products needed to be earlier on, we could have better positioned them for the ideal area within that segment. So we needed to have Bold, as an example, as more into the high-tech market segment than we initially placed it, such that, again, in round 3, it was in the ideal spot so we could best capitalize on the product at that point in time. We significantly underestimated the role of automation and what it played in terms of the end state contribution margin. Knowing that now, that's where we're able to, again, recapitalize on those efforts. However, there's a lot of money that was previously spent going out of rounds 2 and round 3, where we could have had lower than what we actually had as labor cost at that point in time. Communication was key. We saw that round over round in terms of discussing where each of the products needed to be, what each of our competitors were doing round over round, and the calculations therein. Continuous learning was another big part of our end state goal and what came out of our results from playing with this simulation. It needed to be done in collaboration with the efforts of CAPSIM. We needed to rely on their expertise and understand more of what was happening in the background and how the different values were being calculated, how they played on one another, how our particular market segment, our price, our strategy racked and stacked against our competitors, and how we could understand the inner workings and the calculations, again, to best place our products at the end of the day. It really came down to what I'll jokingly call is playing a game at Tetris at level 20. We're flooded with all sorts of information, but we need to be able to quickly align that information in such a fashion that we're able to make a line so we understand as we move across from research and development to marketing to production to financing that our strategy and the decisions that we made complemented each other until we got to that end state goal. To our shareholders that are present here today, again, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to join us. In conclusion, it was a very successful year for Team Baldwin, a very successful simulation over the past 6 rounds. I just want to thank you to all my team members that were able to support each other as we leaned forward and we played this game of Tetris at level 20 as we understood the inner workings, a specific thank you needs to go out to CY, who was on the other side of the world and always having to get up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning his time to join us for our respective telecons. Team Baldwin set out with the strategy of people first mission, always looking to best set our products apart from our competitors, ensuring that we had very successful, high reliable products that were available for purchase and use. Overall, I just want to say thank you again to my team members. To the rest of the teams, you all did a fantastic job as well. I looked forward each and every Monday to sitting down, seeing what you had done, seeing the achievements that you needed to do, and where we needed to best position ourselves to truly be competitive against you. Thank you for being as successful as what you were, so that it could then in turn, through our own strategy, make us even more successful. Without your efforts, we all couldn't be where we are today. And I, again, just want to thank you all.